is Chance Kabaghe. I've been at the helm of the Endeavour Agricultural Policy Research Institute as a Chief Executive Officer for the past 14 years. It was only last December 31st, December 2024, when I retired as a Chief Executive. I was also the first chairman of the Regional Network of Agricultural Policy for East and Southern Africa, called ANAPRI, which is today called ANAPRI, which is African National Agricultural Policy Research Institute, which has now assumed a continental position. So when we started ANAPRI, our view with my colleagues, I can mention some of them, Professor Tom Jere, Professor Fred Meyer, and also Mary from Tegemeo Institute, Professor Tom Jere, who was then a professor at Michigan State University, and Fred Meyer, a professor at Pretoria University. We used to meet and discuss that there was serious gap in terms of sharing data, sharing ideas between our institutions, which were basically in the same agriculture policy arena. And as you know, agriculture policies are not only related to the boundaries of a given country. They touch many other countries around the continent and also the world at large. Because whatever we produce, we sell within the country and also we export. And also we've now noticed that when you have, especially for climate change, you have droughts. It's not only one country, it will affect many countries in a given agroecological zone or really a region. So the feeling of us as pioneers of ANAPRI, now ANAPRI, was that as institutions, national institutions, we should be exchanging data to know what exactly is happening in a given country. We should also be training ourselves, especially individuals in institutions or as institutions which were lagging behind in terms of really methodologies in policy research. And this symbiotic interchange of ideas and data really was meant to make our institutions stronger and being able to advise the policy decision makers in a manner that is uniform. And indeed, this has worked very well. Yes, we do have, and we used to have at that time, some weak institutions. And over time, they have become extremely strong institutions. And we feel, as really original members of this ANAPRI now, that the dream that we had has now been achieved. So, in a nutshell, our focus was sharing ideas, sharing data, making each institution as strong as possible by exchanging even our own professional labor, professional training to especially younger researchers in our given institutions. Yes, it really has hit many institutions in the ANAPRI family. The recent announcements by the current Donald Trump leadership, where USAID, who really have been the key sponsors of many training institutions, policy institutions in Africa, the freezing of all those awards, grants, has truly affected the institutions. As you know, we produce public goods and services. And our governments in Africa today, the funding where research and development is concerned, research and innovation is concerned, is minimal. So yes, in the short term, many institutions are going to suffer. Yes, to me, it's a passing phase. I think we need to start thinking business-wise. Yes, most of us are highly technical people. We are economists, we are statisticians, and so on and so forth. We are really not business-oriented, people. But I think with this withdrawal of the funding, from USAID, and this is going to continue. It may affect even other donors like GIZ, is the German grants, and many others. I think moving forward, we should start having some of our key personnel in our institutions to be really proper fund managers, people who are just writing proposals and we're implementing those proposals. So we are making money from ourselves, not just waiting for some donor to give us money. There could be some partial funding of our operations. The worry which IAPRI has always had is that if you are fully funded by government, therefore going forward you may find yourself compromising yourself in terms of what you want to investigate on, what you want to publish, especially when it comes to the time of political elections in any given country. Now for ANAPRI, now our mother body now, I think the same thing should apply to ANAPRI in terms of financial strategy moving forward. We should not just depend on grants. We really need to put a team in place that is business oriented, that is looking for money, while at the same time we have others whose job is implementation of the various proposals that we have won as ANAPRI. Yes, training a technocrat, somebody who is specialized in a given area to start thinking commercial, start thinking business is not an easy thing to do. It takes time, but we have no choice at this point in time. Yes, we've always thought that, for that position you need a PhD, for that position you need a master's degree, for that you need a BCD. I think we should also be saying, yes, we need a PhD, but that PhD person should be business oriented for sustainability of the institution. So to me, moving forward for ANAPRI as a strategy for its influence on policies in the continent, it has to start with influence at national level, regional level, and then continental level. I think we need to be very practical. We need to work very closely with the governments, where we operate, and also work very closely with the regional issues. For instance, we should really be working with COMESA. We should be working with the West ECOWAS. We should be working with SADC, and literally all these national, regional institutions. We should be key in giving them ag policy advice. If we do that, then we'll truly be recognized as a truly national, regional, and continental policy institute. We are now. We should also start now working very closely with the African Union. There's a directorate dealing with rural, agriculture, infrastructure, and all those for Africa. Those should be really our partners. Again, we should always be thinking business-wise. Yes, agriculture, because agriculture is here, it's neither here nor there, but I can assure you, agriculture is a business. So if we do think business as ANAPRI, I think we'll see many other people coming to us to implement their projects. As you know, CAADP was initially introduced in Maputo, and then later there was a reform of CAADP in terms of emphasis. We had the Malabo, declaration, and after 10 years, recently in January, I think it was January 11, we had now a new reformed CAADP. This was, as I said earlier on, in Kampala, and the focus changed a bit. Yes, many tenants remain the same, like we have to make sure that 10% of our GDP goes to agriculture, and also that the agriculture would be growing at a minimum of 6%. Those are there, but there was a bit of a change. The emphasis now started coming in terms of climate change, issues, and how do we then sustainably increase productivity in the light of climate change. And also sustained productivity was another issue that became very critical for the 2026-2035 declaration. Issues of technology, research and development, again, basically to sustain the productivity, that also became extremely important. And of course, today we're in the digital world. So whilst in Maputo and the Malawi declarations, those were not very important. Now, digital tools, for our farmers become extremely important. So it's market access. Also, one area that was emphasized was really the PPPs, where the public and private sector work together as a unit. And I think the last one that they really wanted, to be high on the agenda was the monitoring and evaluation. So yes, there was some change, but with the special emphasis that really took account of what is happening with technology, with investment, with climate change today. That was the focus. But maybe I can talk a bit on some of the key priorities that they put, forward. So the key priority that was being emphasized in the now Kampala Declaration is really issues to do with climate resilience. As we all know, climate change now has come to stay. It's devastating. Yes, so agriculture sustainability, that's increased productivity, and how that is maintained, that's another key priority. Further, how do we protect the agroecology and the agroforestry? That was in there. And also, just to fully understand the various agricultural value chains in detail. How do we analyze them and see the flaws in the agricultural value chain? They really ended up with two critical areas. I mentioned one, which is research and development, but the last one really was access to finance by all players in the agricultural value chain. So those were like key priorities that are embedded in the 2026-2035 Kampala Declaration. Now, obviously, just like the Malawi Declaration, and so with the Maputo Declaration, ANAPRI, that time before we were ANAPRI, and all other national research institutions, they delved into what was in the declaration. Now, I've just emphasized priority areas, that the Kampala Declaration has emphasized on. It's incumbent now upon us as national research institutions in Zambia, IAPRI, and indeed ANAPRI, which is our continental, to read, because these declarations that the three we've seen, Maputo, Malawi, and now Kampala, they are continental. When you say continental, they're basically within also the countries. Amalgamation of country policies, they make the ANAPRI, they make the continental policies. So we need to delve in. For instance, IAPRI should be saying, they're talking about climate resilience, climate change. Oh, they're talking about how do we conserve agroecology? How do we conserve agroforestry? Oh, access to finance. They've given us like a tick box. How to tick box? This area, what kind of research can we do? This area, what is relevant? This area, what should we do? We marry now our research agenda to what is embedded in the CAADP, because what is in the CAADP, Kampala Declaration now, is what the governments of Africa want us to do. So ANAPRI should be in line with what the declaration says. And of course, using ANAPRI itself to the local level, at national level, CAADP should be emphasizing. The chief executive of ANAPRI should be saying, hey, Zambia, there's this issue of agro-productivity. There's this issue of access to finance. There's this issue of gender and youth. What are your plans? So once we marry ourselves to this, because they are highlighted, then we'll become relevant and an institution. Not only relevant, but I have no doubt ANAPRI and the affiliates will become sustainable and appreciated by all players. You see, the role of ANAPRI and the role of its affiliates is critical in really not ending, but definitely creating, employment, especially for our youth. It's critical for ending hunger in Africa. It's critical for increasing gross domestic product for given countries. Really, there's no better institution that's so well positioned to be able to achieve these targets we are talking about. My call to ANAPRI and call to its affiliate is that please take the various documents that our national governments have put their regions to. They have their own development, agricultural development projects or plans, and then the continent has its own agenda. I've just been talking about the CAADP. Please, let's study all these in detail and implement them. Truly, we are very unique. We are national policy, agricultural policy institutions, and we have the support of our governments, and we are members of ANAPRI at continental level. So no one has that kind of position. So let us play our game well and remain relevant and sustainable.
ANAPRI, advancing Africa's agriculture through policy research and influence.